What an exciting day. Unbelievable fishing with Captain Al Clowers this morning in the back bay of San Diego. I lost track of how many fish he caught, but what an exciting day that was. And it was such good fishing, insane. Got to watch him catch the ghost shrimp and everything. But hey, welcome. It's your saltwater guide, Captain Dave Hansen, with the Friday super special guest Friday podcast for your saltwater guide. And today we have a really special guest from Fisherman's Landing. We got Carl coming on with us, Carl Schmidt. He's a wealth of knowledge. He's been running the show down there for a little while now, and he's got some cool things to talk about. But as usual, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to ask him how he got into this fishing thing. So I want you guys to kick back, relax, enjoy the show today. If you have any questions for Carl, feel free to put them up on the comment section. We'll do our best. Elliot's producing the show like always today. Elliot is a new U.S. citizen as of yesterday. So congratulations to Elliot for becoming a citizen the right way. He didn't get the bucket of free stuff from the Biden administration. He actually's got to go out and work for it. So he doesn't have the free cell phone. He doesn't have the free health care. He's actually a real United States citizen that has to pay for stuff. And he's going to be producing the best podcast for fishing in Southern California for us today, your saltwater guide. And also in a couple of days, the king of California has decided you're going to pay 61 cents more a gallon for gas. How cool is that? That's pretty special. We got the greatest king in the history of the planet here running our show. So that's cool. We love our king in California. So hail to the king of California. And we're going to have a great time talking today. And I'm going to leave the politics on the side after all that. Thank you all for joining us today. And let's bring Carl in here now that we've scared the hell out of him. Good morning, Carl. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How's everyone doing?
We're having a ball. I'm so happy to have you on the show finally, because Fisherman's Landing is like the mecca of fishing in the world. With the most long-range boats, the best long-range boats, the Bill Pull legacy and the Frank Lopresti legacy, and having you come on the show and be with us today, how spectacular is that? I'm super stoked to have you, buddy.
I'm excited to be here to talk all about what everyone wants to talk about, fishing in Southern California, Fisherman's Landing, and where I came from, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so Carl, a lot of us have a story about how our dad or our mom or our uncle or our grandfather took us fishing. Somebody had to take us when we were kids to get us into this thing. You kind of have a little bit of a unique story. You kind of got into it a little bit later in your childhood. You didn't start out like I did at 3 years old, but I didn't have a choice. My dad's been in the industry since 47.
Yeah.
But yeah, you got a unique story, and it's kind of fun to go back through it with you because you talk about a lot of the boats that we all grew up fishing on. So can you explain to some of our followers how you got into this fishing thing and how you ended up where you're at right now? And it's a good story. So take your time and explain it and get into it deep, because there's a lot of people that care.
Yeah. So like we moved to California when I was like 6 years old or something like that, maybe 7. Then one day my mom pulled me and my brother Mike out of school. We were fishing on Ocean Beach Pier. We went, I don't know how many times we went, but didn't catch much on there. But the first thing I ever caught was a California spiny lobster. It was off, it was in the middle of summer, so not during the season or whatever. Just luckily caught 3 California lobsters. And me and my brother really enjoyed fishing and stuff like that. And then my mom's best friend when they were in school was JD McGriff from the Fisherman 3. And Tim Green owned the Fisherman, and Tim and JD both ran the boat. And we just started going fishing on the half-day boat all the time. My mom liked going or whatever. She didn't fish a lot, but just like going out on the water. Next thing, me and my brother were going fishing all the time. Then him and I started working on the boat, pinheading when we were 10 or 11 years old, somewhere in there. And my brother stuck with the half-day fishing. I did half-day fishing for maybe 1 season. And then it's like, I want to go do something else. So I went around, introduced myself, tried to get on all the different long range boats or all the different boats. Like, I'm 11 years old, 10 years old. Who's going to give me a chance? Then Rick Polak on the Apollo. Hey, we need a kid. You want to come fill in? I'm like, heck yeah. And I was up in LA helping my uncle move with my dad. My dad's like, we'll drive you right back down to San Diego. Got on the boat at 10 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock at night or whatever. And I was off to the races. I ended up working on the Apollo for 5 or 6 years. I think it was 5 years. 2 years with Rick Polak. Then Steve Thompson ran the Apollo for 1 year. Then Kevin Ward was on the Searcher, and he came over to the Apollo, and Steve went over back to the Searcher. And I worked with Kevin Ward for about 7 years, 2 years on the Apollo. Then when Joe Dunn got the Champ back, he went over and worked on the Champ. We spent the first 6 months in the yard getting that thing fixed up. They were coming home from Cabo. They had the accident where they blew out the bow. They got it all fixed up. And me, Kevin, Chris Flores, and some other guys, we worked all together for about 6 or 7 years on the Champ. And that's how I kind of got into fishing. Got my captain's, Joe Dunn, he paid for my captain's license when I turned like 17 and a half years old. I couldn't get my license till I was 18, but I had my captain's license before I had a driver's license at the age of 18. I lived in Point Loma, so there was no need for me to have a driver's license. You could walk around Point Loma and ride your bike down to the dock and everything like that. So me and my brother did that. And then after that, worked on the Searcher and the Islander for a long time. Worked in the tackle shop with Doug there for about 4 years. About 4 years. Then I went back on the Searcher and the Islander. I worked on those two boats with Art. And then John and Shane bought the Islander. I went over there for quite a while. And, yeah, just did the whole shark diving thing with both boats. Ran second, ran relief on the both boats. So that's kind of my history in a short version of it.
Well, I want to jump back to the very beginning when you were on the half-day boat. Gang, you don't understand that is such a grind. Like Carl and I were talking before we went live. The half-day boat, the Fisherman 3 that he was working on back then, 3 trips a day. And if you're the owner of the boat, that's kind of how you got to do it because you want to try to make a living in this industry. 3 trips a day. It's a gnarly grind for the crew. You get in, talk about what time the boat would leave, what time it would be done at the end of the day. And think about this. You were a 12-year-old. You were a 12-year-old and your brother. You guys were kids. We can't do that. We can't do that anymore, ladies and gentlemen. I know it's not allowed. Labor laws, but that's how we all grew up. I mean, I bring a lot of the old timers on the show, and we all talk about how we started out as little kids on the boats. But talk about the hours. This will blow your mind, gang.
Yeah, and back then, I mean, I think we ran with 70 people on the Fisherman 3, which is a 65-foot boat. Half day left at 6:30 every morning, afternoon left at 1 o'clock, and then the twilight left at 6:30, 7 o'clock. And we weren't done. Like the boat would get in around 11. Then, you got to still scrub the boat, get the boat ready for the following morning, load groceries and stuff. You didn't get off the boat till midnight. Went home, slept for a few hours, then came back down, and you had to be back at the dock at 5:30. So you're really getting 4 hours of sleep, and like when you're a kid at our age and you're just trying to earn your stripes and get on, like become part of the crew, you were doing that. And thank God for my dad. I mean, he'd come down and pick us up at midnight and would drop us back during the summer, drop us off at 5:30 in the morning while he still go work his normal job. And he did that for probably 10 years for me and my brother. My brother was down there and he had to do that every day. Being on the Apollo, I didn't have to come home and go back and forth all the time and stuff. But that first year, it was a grind, and my brother did it forever. My brother ended up owning the Malahini, Mike Schmidt, and working for Tim and JD for years and years and years. But I don't know, what my dad was thinking doing that for us for 3 or 4 months out of the straight. I mean, hey, Mike, you're going to do that. And what they were thinking, luckily I had good mentors, good captains that kept me on a good straight arrow path or whatever between Rick and Steve and Kevin. I mean, Kevin was like a second dad to me. Him and his son, Sean, we were best friends growing up and stuff like that. So it was a grind for sure. Like three trips a day, 70 people a day. It's a trip, during the summer. And the sand bass fishing back then for San Diego was really good, especially at night. And you're fishing calicos and barracuda and stuff like that. I was like, I don't know how we did it, but we did. That's for sure.
That's what I want to tell everybody, when you look at your kids today and you think, oh, we got to coddle them and everything, gang, it's okay to let them go and take them down to the boats and let them go out fishing and stuff. It's the greatest way to grow up as a kid. There are too many. I'm not trying to tell you guys how to raise your kids. I'm just saying there's just too much coddling going on nowadays. We made it through it. Carl made it through it. A lot of the guys, you look at them, the Tim Ekstroms and the Roy Roses and the Frank Leprestis, they all have the story of how it was in the day. And all we wanted to do was get on that boat and work, whatever we wanted to work. And today you hear these children, they're so tired. They're just annihilated tired. You're like, how could you possibly be that tired? You haven't done anything.
Right.
You just woke up at the crack of 11 in the afternoon and you went to bed last night at 10. So it's okay to let your children work. We're not allowed to let them work. Carl can't hire your 12-year-old son to go work on the boats today like we did back in the day. The labor laws were a little more lax, but as a child growing up, Carl, was that the greatest, though? The greatest way to grow?
Yeah, I wouldn't change it for the world. It was awesome. And getting to experience all that and learning what I did, I mean, by the time I left the house at the age of 17 or 18, I knew how to take care of myself. I knew how to feed myself. I knew how to pay bills. I knew how to manage money and stuff like that. I knew when I hit the world, I was ready to go. In today's day and age, everyone's got a cell phone or an app or whatever. People don't know what a hard day's worth of work is, especially in the city. You get out into the country and the fields and stuff like that. It's different, but it is a different day and age. And I miss those days where, like, go do something outside. Everyone's afraid something bad's going to happen to their kids. And it's just not the case. Is it really any worse today than it was back then? Probably not, but we have social media and it's in your face all the time. Right. I mean, my parents like, hey, the street lights are on. As soon as the street lights are on, you have 15 minutes to come home. If you weren't home, there was consequences. And we all knew that. So, and everyone obeyed by that, So I'm lucky. I have 3 kids that are my oldest son. He's hustling and bustling. He just got his college degree. He just graduated college, and he's trying to get a job with A.O. Reed and some of these different companies down here and do that type of stuff. And I got 2 young daughters that are learning the same thing, but it's a different day and age, which is crazy to me that like everyone needs to handle a kid so softly and stuff. Like, let them grow up, let them be kids, let them go outside, and it's okay if they hurt themselves. So.
Yeah. Back to what we were talking about when Carl first started. Here's how good Carl's work ethic was, because he worked for some phenomenal human beings in the industry. He wanted to get off the half-day boat and go work harder. Go get on a long-range boat, gang. Now, you don't get that 4 hours at home, laying in your bed, getting up and going back to work. You're at work. How many hours a day? All day. There's no break.
Yeah.
And as the young child on the boat, as a captain for a long time, we look at the young guys on the boat as those are the guys that are going to do all the work.
Exactly.
No, Carl, no, you're not going to go lay down. No, we're making bait right now. Get out there. You're going to be flicking bait. You're going to be washing the deck. You're going to be, well, Carl hasn't laid down yet today. That's okay. We don't care. That's not what it's about. Carl's the new kid on the boat. That's what it's like, gang. You don't understand. And as Carl got his license, he already had that great work ethic. So that's what he did. He groomed other guys in the industry. And now you've taken that passion and that work ethic up into the office now. And you're up there in the office grooming these young men and women today that are going to carry on and do what you and I have done. But the work ethic that being in this industry teaches you, either you have it or you don't make it in this industry.
Correct. Yeah. Either you're going to have to learn to keep your mouth shut and just do what you're told and realize you're just earning, like, you got to pay your dues, let's say. And you're the guy that has to empty every trash can. You're the guy that's going to have to get down in the fish hole and throw fish up. You're not going to have the guy that's been working on the boat or the captain or second captain down moving fish around or moving bags of salt around. If you're the new guy and the new kid, you're going to get stuck with all the crappy jobs, cleaning the bilges and doing whatever. You're going to have to go. You're coming up the line. You're going to have to go scrub the port side. You're going to have to get wet. It is just what it is. and you learn that you're putting your time in, then eventually you're going to get to do the easier jobs down the road. But everyone wants, like, how to say this, like all these kids just want to skip all the A, B, C, Z steps and just go to straight to X, Y, Z and get all the glory. It's like, no, that's not how it works, man. You got to put your time in and learn everything we learned, so you can earn the knowledge that you have now.
And Carl, think about back in the day, and I while you're talking, those days are flashing back in my head. When the captain, we didn't talk to the captain as kids. That you weren't allowed to talk to cat. You talked second deck or the first deck or maybe the cook, but you didn't get up to the wheelhouse and talk to the captain. And boy, it was terrifying if you heard him call your name on the PA. You knew you weren't coming up there to get a lollipop or an ice cream. You were, yeah. But when they asked you to go in the fish hole and move the ice, or they asked you to go into the galley hole and grab some salad dressing or something, weren't you like, I know I was like stoked. They're trusting me to go get the salad dressing. They're trusting me to go move the ice, which is a different mentality than today.
Yeah, exactly. You learned how to do something simple, then you're going to take the next step to the next step. Then eventually you're going to be down in the engine room. They're going to trust you how to change the oil or get the boat ready, start the refrigeration, whatever it may be. But it's not like you step on the boat the first day on the job and like, oh, I'm going to go do all that stuff. No, you got to learn the whole system from A to Z and every letter in between and stuff like that. And it's kind of cool that, like, there are a handful of kids running around our dock right now, and they're 10, 12 years old, and they go fishing, and Jason on the Dolphin or maybe Taro on the Liberty. Like, hey, I've seen them like come down here, scrub the boat a little, I'll let you come fishing. It's not like when you were young, you can't just throw them on the boat and take them away and type of stuff. But it's kind of like when we were young, there was 50 kids that were in line to take your spot. They wanted that job. They wanted to earn that tip money, and now there's 5 kids or 10 kids down there that are trying to take that job or away from each other and stuff like that. I do miss seeing the young kids out there, and it's kind of makes me scratch my head. Like, what does our future hold? But in the last 5 years at Fisherman's Landing, we saw Joe Tate sell the Pegasus to Alex, which has got a bright future. Jake on the Fortune, Mike Louse on the Dawn, Dave on the Tomahawk, Gavin on Pacific Queen. You have a Duke Ekstrom on the Royal Star. You got Jonathan Yamati on the Searcher, Mike on the Royal Polaris, Mike on the Searcher, Justin that just bought the Islander, and like Fisherman's Landing is set up now with some really great young talent and captains to really take the next 20 or 30 years down the road for our boats at Fisherman's Landing. It's like, where did all these kids come from? And you know what? They're in the background doing their thing. Aliar on the Supreme. Most people probably didn't know who Aliar was 5 years ago out of San Diego, but he's a kid that grew up up in your neck of the woods.
Or sport fishing, baby.
Yeah, exactly. And he's one of the best captains now down here. And like 5 years ago, probably no one knew who he was in San Diego. I'm sure there were guys that knew who he was, but I mean, he's the hottest ticket in town now,
Yeah. When we think back to what it was like when we were young, I remember thinking, wow, there is back in the 80s and 90s when I was running boats, I was thinking, man, there is no kids nowadays. But here we are. The industry's still plugging along, baby.
Yeah.
But I'm just trying to explain to some of the younger people that are watching today, if you get invited up to the wheelhouse, back in our day, I don't know how it was with you, Carl. You were 20 years behind me, but in my day, you didn't get invited to the wheelhouse when you were starting out. That was like a sacred place. And if you get invited up to the wheelhouse nowadays, gang, you got to feel pretty special about it. You come up there and we never had an opinion to share with the captain. My God, that's just terrible.
I never had the opinion, but I was really lucky, especially when I started working with Kevin Ward and Joe Dunn. And they knew what, like, I knew when I was that young, I knew this is what I wanted to do with my life. I didn't want to go explore I wanted to be in the fishing industry and community. And luckily for me, Kevin Ward and Joe Dunn and guys like Art Taylor And some of these guys really like, okay, this is what you want to do. And they would sit down and teach me, like, hey, I'm going to go to the field dock. Come up here and watch me how I do this. Or get down on the bait receivers and look what I'm looking for bait. The first year I worked on the Apollo, I was not allowed to leave the bait tank. My job was, you're going to learn everything about there is to know about bait. You're going to have first name bases with every anchovy in the bait tank type of deal. Wasn't allowed to get down and gaff. I wasn't allowed to get down and get tangles out or whatever. Your job is to learn how to chum and observe what's going on the deck. And to be honest with you, I learned probably more standing on that bait tank on the Apollo for 12 hours a day or 15 hours a day and learning how to chum and watching the conditions and watching how the seasoned deckhands and the captains would get handled 5-way tangles, 6-way tangles. So when it was like, okay, now it's we're going to let you off the tank, go deal with some of the stuff. I was way more prepared how to deal with that type of stuff than just throwing a kid down there and like making a customer like that kid doesn't know anything. Why is he on the deck? But when I was get ready to go down there, I knew how to handle myself and knew what to say. And like, okay, the first couple of times wasn't great, but I knew what I was doing. And I did, get a lot more fish out of tangles than I would have just like, okay, get on the deck, do your thing and hope for the best type of deal. So I was really lucky for guys like Kevin and Art that really sat down with me and showed me the way.
That bait tank is where you learn all about what's going on the boat. You get to see everything from up there. You get to see how the captain interacts with his crew, how the whole thing comes together. Plus what it teaches us as young men and women is how to talk to people, because every single one of those passengers are coming to the bait tank to talk to you, Carl. They're all coming over there, and they're back in the and we're in anchovy time right now. Back in those days, they all came to the bait tank and looked up at you and said, "Hey kid, I need a hook bait." You're like, "Uh-oh, I better figure out how to talk to this guy because there is no hook bait."
Yeah, exactly. And the thing, like, I remember being 12, 13 years old. It's like, what? I hated being on the bait tank the first few months, like this sucks. Like, I want to be, obviously everyone wants to be down in the action, gaffing fish and tangles and all that type of stuff and hooking and handing or whatever. But looking back now, it's like I learned so much in that whole season, being on that bait tank and just watching and learning and listening to the conversation either the passengers had or other deckhands. And you do learn a lot, and you do learn how to talk to passengers and stuff like that. And you do, like, you don't get to talk a lot, but you do a lot of maturing on that bait tank and learning a lot about fishing and like what it takes to get fish to bite. And if you're slacking on your chum or whatever, it's like, dude, you don't realize how like an important job it is being on the bait tank to start with. Like everyone's relying on you. Everyone's kind of standing like, are you chumming? Are you making sure you got the fish in the corner? Are you letting the fish get away? It's like, dude, there's a lot of responsibility on there, and you're a kid and you just don't realize what's going on until afterwards, and you step back and you look on what's like, dude, I had a lot more responsibility than I thought I did, to be honest with you.
Right. And back in, I don't know how it was in the 90s, but my day, you got yelled at a ton. That's just the way that's how you learned. Even though they're the greatest captains in the world and where you look up to them and they're our guru dudes, those guys yelled at us. You didn't chum right. You didn't throw the bait in the right corner. You didn't understand the wind in their face and throwing the bait behind them on the downhill corner. And you didn't understand all that. You didn't feed the fish fast enough or slow enough. You didn't throw one at a time. You threw two, or anything you did wrong, you got yelled at. You didn't even know they were watching you, but while they're undoing an 8-way tangle, they're watching you too, Carl. And that taught us how to be good captains.
Yeah. And like, I'm very even keeled type of person, and I never took their yelling at, like, I know a lot of people, especially in today's day and age and how everything is, I never took it personally. It's just them trying to get their point across in a short period of time. It's not like they have all day to like sit you down and tell you what's going on. Like, they needed to tell you and make sure you got to the point, to the point, and you understood what they were saying. And like, I never took it personal, and a lot of these kids, they do. It's like, dude, just let it go. They're not attacking you personally. They're just trying to get to the point and make sure you understand and move on. You know, you're going to become a better person, and you're going to have thick skin as a fisherman. You know, like there are going to be people that are on that boat, may or may not like you. There might be having a bad day. They're having a bad fishing trip, and they might take that anger or whatever they got going off on you, and like you can't take it personally, man. You just like move on with it. And like for me, I'm grateful for everything, how I learned and everything. I wish it was still like that today, but unfortunately, we're living in times that don't allow that, I guess.
Right. It's a different world today for
Yeah.
damn sure, but you got to have a thick skin, gang, if you're going to work in this industry. And to think that they're yelling, well, I did it for so long and I yelled at so many kids, and it's not that we're mad at you, or it's not even personal. We got an 8-way tangle over here on the starboard side. On the bow, they need a gaff. And on the stern, the guy just threw his rod over, and now over on the port side, 2 guys are getting in a fight. And all this is going on while you're supposed to be chumming, and I got to keep my head and got to make sure that I don't hurt your feelings. Oh, for
exactly
fiddlestick sakes.
Yeah.
Give me a flipping break. That's why I could not do it today. There's just no way, because I can't even worry about your feelings. So, gang, if you guys joining us, and we got a really nice audience today, Carl. This is Carl from Fisherman's Landing, and we're going to get into what he's doing today at Fisherman's Landing. But we're talking old days, working on the sport boats, how we grew up, kind of hitting it home for all the young people today to understand it's okay to work hard, and it's okay to get talked to sternly. You could call it yelling, whatever. It's all about learning, and it's all about all the other things that are going on, gang. And you can't take everything so personal nowadays. It's just unbelievable how easy people's feelings get hurt.
And I think a lot of people don't realize how many moving parts there are on a boat. You know, a guy comes fishing and they get on the boat, or it's a deckhand's first day on the job. Like, all right, there's everything that's going on in the wheelhouse. There's everything that's going on the deck, the galley. There's stuff in the engine room, the fish hole, the compressors, and everything. There's a lot moving on. And I tell people, when you're like, hey, when you're starting this business, like you got to have your head on a swivel. And the guy that's driving the boat, he's got his head going to every direction, you know? And like, if he comes down and like, I don't know how many times the kid's like, man, I just got yelled at. I was like, dude, it's a learning experience. And you got to remember, he's not only worrying about driving the boat one direction, whichever way the boat's going. He's got a list of 100 things going on right now, and he's got to make sure he hits every point to make the boat run smoothly, you know? And like, so yeah, he yelled at you, but like 5 minutes from now, he's not going to care. As long as the one thing that Joe Dunn and taught me, and Kevin Ward, like, and Art made this really clear also. You know what? If you make a mistake, that's fine, you know? And if I teach you, just don't do it again. Just learn from your mistakes. And, you know, you might make the mistake again accidentally or whatever, but if you're learning from your mistakes, and you're like, you won't get yelled at for that again, you know? As long as you learn from it and you move on from it, it's in the past. It's the guys that get the captains that get frustrated. Like, dude, I've already talked to you about this, or yelled at you, whatever, 5 times already. Like, what is it going to take to get through your head not to keep doing what you're doing? You have to like learn. And if you want to move on, if you can't learn from this mistake, you're not going to succeed in this business or move on or become a second captain or a captain of the main deckhand or whatever. You know, it's a learning experience for everyone. I don't know how to say it or whatever, but like, you have to learn from your mistakes. And if you can't learn from your mistakes, you're never going to move on in life, I guess.
Oh, absolutely. And the reason we're just kind of powering this home, gang, is because Carl's in the industry right now dealing with this on a daily basis, because he is basically the go-to guy at Fisherman's Landing. When the boats get in the afternoon, or when they get in the evening, Everybody's coming up to Carl. The passengers are coming up to Carl. The captains are coming up to Carl. The deckhands are coming up to Carl. So besides being the manager of Fisherman's Landing, you also are the psychiatrist at Fisherman's Landing.
Sometimes that is true. Yes.
And you got to keep everybody happy. And you don't, nowadays, we don't want to lose anybody that's working. Anybody that shows up, we don't want to lose you, gang. So thank God for Carl.
I'm super, like, the guys that we have at all the boat owners at Fisherman's Landing right now are doing awesome. Some of them are young and they're learning, but the Jeff Spaffers of the Constitution, and I've already named a whole bunch of guys, and they're taking this whole fishing thing to the next level. Look what Gavin is doing on the Queen, and Mike Louse on the Dawn, Mike on the Searcher. When I worked on the Searcher, we did mostly a lot of 3-day trips. We did a couple 5 and 6 day trips, but Mike taught her on the Searcher. I mean, that boat has gone from one of the least known long range boats, or whatever mid range boats, that 3 to 7 day trip. You look at their schedule now, it is sold out for every trip for the whole year. And they're doing 50 trips a year. That boat's running 9 months out of the year, Art groomed or raised Mike how to do it, and he's taken what Art taught him and went to the next level. Same with Gavin on the Queen. And I'm excited to see what Mike and Alex and Jake on the Dawn and the Pegasus and the Fortune does. Dave is taking the Tomahawk. I think a year from now or 2 years from now, the Tomahawk is going to be one of the hardest boats to get onto. Dave's a great guy. He's a great fisherman. He's great on deck. He was willing to teach anyone anything they want to know. If they just ask him a question, Dave is super good on educating their customers. He has that kind of, I could go talk to the captain and he will sit down there and teach me how to do something for 15 minutes, and if you ask him a question after the boat gets in, he'll say, hey, this is what you're doing wrong. This is what you need to do the next time, and I think we're super lucky at Fisherman's Landing on the guys that we have leading our boats and where it will go in the next 5 to 10 years with customer service and how fishing is changing. It's going to be exciting to see.
Oh, it's exciting to watch from the outside right now. And the guy like Art, he was up in front of everybody as far as social media goes. He was doing his Tuesday
tackle tip Tuesdays,
before most people even knew anything about social media, which was cool. I was like, whoa, look at Art. Here he comes. He's in here with me. It was him and I, and there was no one else. And now everybody understands social media is the way to go. Unfortunately, gang, it is.
Yeah, it's a double. I mean, it really is. Social media is driving our business and getting our customers and getting the information out there now these days. It's a double-edged sword. I've seen it, like when the fishing is going crazy, phones are ringing, people want to go fishing. As soon as the fishing dies, I got to cancel my reservation. They have something that came up, for any reason and whatever under the sun that they have to cancel their trip and stuff. So it's a double-edged sword, but it is what drives our business right now. And if you're not in doing it, you're going to be left behind for sure. You're going to be one of the last boats off the dock, or if you're not following all the different boat pages or landing pages, by the time you hear about the Byte's going to be over now. Everyone, when we grew up, it was Western Outdoor News or going to the LA Times or San Diego Tribune and seeing the fish counts and stuff like that. There was no one had a website or anything like that. So it's definitely a different time, different age we live in the last 10 or 15 years when we compared to where we grew up, where you had to go search for it.
And one of the people that are watching right now asked if that's a monkey behind me. Yep, that's my monkey. His name's Marley. He's been a part of the show now for 2.5 years. He's a marmoset monkey. He's 5 years old. He's right behind me, setting up there. Sometimes he'll be on my shoulder. Sometimes he'll be right in front of the camera trying to figure out what's going on. But he's very intrigued right now by Carl. He's watching right over my shoulder going, what's going on here, Dad? Yep. That is a monkey. So there he is.
That's cool.
That's Marley, the marmoset monkey. We've had him since he was a baby.
Nice. How old is he?
He's 5. He's the smallest monkey in the world. He's 8 inches tall, full grown.
Oh, okay. Very
That's
cool.
him. He's way smaller than the cup I drank out of. But he's kind of shy right now. If I jumped up, tried to catch him like I normally do, he would run. There he goes. He already knows. I said catch him. He's taking off.
Yeah.
But so Carl, you worked on the boat. You got your captain's license. And then when things got slow in the wintertime, you came up and started helping Doug and Rick up in the tackle shop, right? Is that correct?
Yeah. When anytime they needed help, Rick and I, we're about the same age, so we grew up together, in the industry. And Rick's worked in the tackle shop probably since he was 12 or 13 years old also, So hey, it was slow and they needed help during the Fred Hall shows. I'd go help pack boxes and do whatever. And I was always asking questions. And when it was slow or whatever, I'd help fill in a date, in the tackle shop. I'd learn all about the rods and the reels and stuff like that. Then when I left the Champ and went over to the Searcher, there was about 3 or 4 years, I kind of it'd be really cool to learn that whole industry, all the ins and outs of Fisherman's Landing tackle, CalStar rods, all the numbers and all the ratings and all the different reels and line and stuff like that. So it gave me another part of arsenal in my portfolio to learn something about our industry, Then when I went back to the boats and I was in charge of the tackle sections on the different boats, I knew what a CalStar 770 extra heavy was, or a Penn 500 or 99 when we grew up, to the Trinidad 20s and the Trinx 500s now, or the Daiwa Saltigas and stuff. I knew when someone would ask me something, I knew what they were talking about. A lot of people on the boats, they know what a fishing rod is and what it can do and stuff, but they might not know the details of a Pacific rod or reel or whatever. So I spent a couple years in that so I can learn all that type of information. Then I went back to the boats and just concentrated on that. And like I said, to get to where I am now in Fisherman's Landing, when my wife had our youngest child, she was pregnant and her dad was terminally ill. I had to take a season off. My plan was get through this season, get my youngest kid born, get through that period of time, our season with my wife and her dad and everything. Then I was going to go right back to the Islander. Me and Jason and John had a good thing going on there and stuff like that. But then I got married. I adopted my wife's 2 older kids there. And then we had our young kid, and I got the offer at Fisherman's Landing to be one of the managers there. It's I want to be home and raise my kids and not miss all the stuff that parents get to do, and that became more important to me. And it's but I didn't want to leave the fishing industry. I love the fishing industry. I love customer service. I really enjoy my job. It's I never wake up. It's man, I got to go to work. This sucks. I enjoy all of it. I enjoy working with Frank and Doug and Tim and Rick and all those guys in the office. I still get to be best friends with Drew Card and Justin and John and all those guys on the boat. Still get to be part of the industry and stuff like that. So I'm extremely lucky. So they offered me the job there at being part of the manager at Fisherman's Landing, and I took it. So
yeah, you did. But I want to
been there now for 10 years.
Hold on one second, because I want to go back to the tackle shop in just a second. I got to show the gang. We can't do this show without our great sponsors. And our sponsor for Fridays is one of my very best friends on the planet. He's like my little brother. Him and I grew up together working for my dad, and Todd went on to do some phenomenal things, Manser Marine and McCarty Yacht Sales. I want you to check out this little video. If you have a boat or you're looking for a boat, check out Manser Marine here. And then we're going to get back to Carl, because I want to get into the tackle shop for a minute before we go down the next rabbit hole. Here, check out
Hey
Todd.
guys, Captain Todd here with McCarty Yacht Group, Manser Marine, proud sponsor of Your Saltwater Guide. I'm here with my good buddy John McCarty.
Hey guys, how you doing?
The broker for McCarty Yacht Group. And guys, I just want to tell you, it's springtime. It's time to start buying and selling. If you're looking to buy a boat right now or looking to sell a boat, make sure you give us a call at McCarty Yacht Group. Guys, you know how to get a hold of me at 949-547-7748. We're sitting on the Pescatory right now. This is office number 1, 2, or 3. I can't remember. We're either in the office, at home, on a boat, but this is one of the places we do business, guys. But if you're looking for somebody to well represent you, We are a different breed of cat, guys. We work on boats for a living. We're going to make sure to sell your boat for the top price, or if you're looking to buy a boat, we're going to make sure you get something that's not a horrible project for you. So anyway, guys, give us a call. We look forward to hearing from you.
There you go, Todd. Thank you very much. So, Carl, back to the Fisherman's Landing tackle shop. There's a lot of tackle shops on the planet Earth, but gang, I can't think of another, maybe Seaforth now, but the tackle shop at Fisherman's Landing is absolute incredible machine, if you will. The amount of people that tackle shop touches, and it's going to start touching a whole bunch of people here now as we start to move forward, and the bluefin are starting to bite more consistent, and we got warm water on the way and things. Let's talk about what an average night at Fisherman's Landing tackle looks like, Carl. People can't comprehend this. It is crazy, gang, the amount of stuff that's flying out of Fisherman's Landing tackle. Doug Kern done a phenomenal job putting that thing together, but like you said, Rick Maxa, he's the encyclopedia. What do you want to know? He knows the name, number, brand of the hook, where the feathers come from for the Zucker lures. I mean, the real components. Talk about this for a second, Carl.
Yeah, I don't think most people realize how busy it gets on a particular morning or a particular night. You know, when we have a whole bunch of boats coming and going. You know, on certain days there are trips that on days we might have 1,000 people getting off on the boats between the 3 landings and 1,000 people getting on the boats on a particular morning or at night. You know, so and all those people are coming through Fisherman's Landing tackle. 90% of them, you know, getting their whatever jigs there are. And the core group of Rick and Brandon and Ray, Dylan and those guys there, they're phenomenal. And the best thing about Fisherman's Landing tackle, they're right there. They talk to all the deckhands and the captains. So when you get on the boat, you know you have the right stuff. You know, there's our particular boats that want something a little different than the other boat. But you know who knows that? The guys at Fisherman's Landing tackle. It doesn't matter if you're going on the Vagabond, because Mike on the Vagabond and Cameron, they like to fish bluefin one way versus a different way if you're going on the Tomahawk or the Royal Polaris. You know, hey, I'm going on the Vagabond. This is what they're telling me. They're like, perfect. We know exactly what you want. Or Alex on the Pegasus. This is how he likes to fish, you know? And like to have 1,000 guys or a couple of hundred guys, 500-600 guys coming through the tackle shop, it's not like it's spread out through the whole day either. Like if the boats are coming in at 5:30 and leaving again at 10 o'clock, it's 5 hours where 1,000 people are getting off the boat or 500 people are getting off the boat. And then 500 to 1,000 people are getting back on the boat. And to service all those people. And it's not like selling just jigs and line, you know, they're filling brand new reels up. They're putting 500 yards of Spectron. And they might have 50 reels they got to get done. And they got 2 guys on a line machine just for 5 hours straight, filling line up, tying knots and stuff like that. Okay, you need a new rod for your new Okuma or whatever reel it may be. Here, let me show you the perfect rod or what you're looking for. And the new jigging setups that they have for slow pitch and fast pitch jigs, the new reels that they have for that, and the new rods that they have for that. And they're keeping up with this stuff on a daily basis and stuff like that. It's really, sometimes it's like when we're checking in people, it's a little slower than watching those guys do what they do over there. It's fun to watch and like to sit back and then like 4 hours later, they're like, oh my God, we just got our butts kicked. But everyone on the boats are happy. And the guys that crew and the deckhands, for the most part, they know, like, did you get your stuff at Fisherman's Landing tackle? You got the right stuff. They don't have to worry about it. You know, their knots are tied correctly. Their crimps are crimped down correctly. They have whatever, like, if they like their assist hooks on top of the jig or bottom of the jig, you know, every boat is different, you know, but they know that their stuff is done right and correctly, and they're not having to go back and spend 3 hours of travel time and re-rigging everyone because they know it's done correctly.
Absolutely. And Elliot threw up a picture of the tackle shop that the line's sitting outside. That's nothing. That is silly little line. That is nothing, gang. And we have a good friend of ours that owns RCT Tackle in Louisiana, and they cater to the catfish guys. When Carl's saying 500 people going through a night, that's a slow night. That's a super slow night, gang. When he says 1,000, a lot of you are going, oh, he's exaggerating. No, he's not. He's telling the honest to God truth. You have no idea. The place is humming. And besides the boats, you got all the private boaters coming in too. So like Brandon or the other young men that work in there, first thing they're going to ask you is, what boat are you going on? Because like Carl said, it matters. Mike, the guys on the Tomahawk, they want their stuff this way. The guys over on the Independence, they want their stuff this way. The guys, so everything matters. And then your private boater, okay, well, come over here. Let's get out of the way of all this sport boat. I got to talk to you off to the side because I don't want these guys that are going on the sport boat to think, I don't want to get their heads melted. And all this has to go on in an hour and a half or 2 hours because the guys come in, they get a parking spot, they drop off all their stuff, they go in the office and they're like, hey, Rick, or hey, Brandon, I need a couple 100 yards of line, put on this spool real fast. And what are we fishing for tomorrow? Oh, we're fishing bluefin. Can you give me a couple flying fish rigs? Do you got any rigged up? Can you rig me up some? And this goes on and on. Right, Carl?
It is. It's true. Yeah. Then like when it's not busy, they're getting everything, like you said, the flying fish rigs or the bite leaders or whatever the hot new jig is to get those things re-rigged. I mean, it's like the whole tungsten jig thing. I mean, no one fished a tungsten jig hardly last year. Now that's all they can sell. And those guys are on the computer or on their phones, and they're trying to find where they can get the next batch of tungsten jigs are. And, some of these guys are really good. Some of them have met some really good, cool people through different websites or whatever, or apps. And like Ray in the tackle shop, he's got a relationship with someone in Japan, and he's getting tungsten jigs for probably no one else can get them, but that's what our guys do. They get to know people in the industry and they get these relationships with people. That's why sometimes you can only find certain things at Fisherman's Landing Tackle where you'll never be able to find it anywhere else because of the relationship these guys have. And all these guys have been in the industry in the tackle industry for such a long time, or if you need a special kite rod or kite rig, or these guys know everyone in the industry, like, hey, they could call a Shimano or a Okuma or whatever X reel it is, or like how the sword fishing thing has become such a big deep drop stuff. And like all the electric reels now we have, these guys flew in or they got down to Fisherman's Landing and they taught Darren, probably the best rigger on the planet. It doesn't matter if he's rigging something up for deep drop swordfish, backpack flying fish, or kite rigs and stuff like that. He's probably the best there of the best for Southern California. If I want my stuff done, that's the guy I want doing my stuff. He's super particular. He's great at it, and he gets it done in a timely manner. So it's like we have the best group there. It's kind of crazy, when we can talk about the old days of albacore fishing, and when everyone just did overnight trips. All you needed for albacore fishing back then was a pack of hooks and a TLC and a fish trap, and that was a crazy night. Literally, it was 1,500 people between the three landings getting off boats every night at 9 o'clock, and new group of 1,500 people going albacore fishing and getting on boats, and all those people, it was a different breed of people back then, but it was nuts, and it's still nuts because how much more tackle people take compared to albacore fishing,
Yeah, it's just kind of hard to wrap your head around the amount of people that are flying through this building on a nightly, daily basis, gang. And then now we kind of touched on the tackle shop and the tungsten thing. We could go into that for the next 3 hours. And you guys, that's for a different show. We'll explain that all to you because we're almost through the whole hour, Carl. I can't believe it goes so fast here.
Yeah.
But back now, you worked on the boats, and you got your captain license. You're running boats. Then you wanted to be at home with the family and the whole thing. And then the opportunity opened up for you to be the manager of Fisherman's Landing, which is a big, huge thing that you have to pull off on a daily basis. Can we talk about that for the last 10 minutes?
Yeah. They wanted someone that had a good relationship with all the boat owners and captains. And out of Fisherman's Landing, that's where I grew up. I spent most of my time growing up out of Fisherman's Landing. So I knew majority of all the boat captains and owners and stuff like that. So I had a good relationship with them. I had a good relationship with the owners of the landing and stuff. So I was a good guy that can understand both sides of the problem. The captain would come in and it's like, why is this going on up here versus this? I could explain both sides of it And like, if you just have someone that doesn't fish or go fishing or know these guys or understand the background of these boats, and you have someone that's on the land and they don't understand what's going on, like they don't understand. It's two different industries, kind of, to think about it, the landing and the fishing industry. And I was the guy that can bridge both parties, and I can explain, hey, this is why the landing is doing it this way, and this is why the boat wants it done this way. I had that relationship on both sides of the aisle there. So I was a really good fit there. I took it as a badge of honor. I mean, they could have hired a super well-known seasoned pro from one of the other boats or out of the industry and to do it. And Doug really pushed me to do this job. And I really couldn't thank him enough. And I've taken it and I've run with it. I think I've helped a lot of the boats. I build their schedules for them on every year, or help them build their schedules and what's going to not so much the long range boats, but for the short range boats, the guys that are doing 1 to 3 day trips, and I let them, like, before, like, everyone had, like, a boat needed to fill up before we could add another boat. It's like, well, that's stupid. Let these guys put their schedule out, and we're going to let the cream of the crop rise to the top. The guys that are doing a great job, they're going to get out first. And these guys that are kind of slacking, they're going to see, hey, we need to really
step it up.
And it's worked out great. It's everyone. It doesn't matter. You can put your schedule out next year already if you want. And the next guy and the next guy. And the guys that do a great job are going to fill up. And the guys that are slacking know, like, what are these guys over here doing that they're getting all the reservations and I'm not? It makes them look at themselves and like, hey, I got to up my game to start getting people on our boat and get off the dock and stuff like that. And getting us to 2025 with their social media, to really get it up and going. I don't know how to do it all. We got Elliot involved. It took a little time to get some of these guys to, like, social media is the way to go. And I'm learning a lot as we go on this type of stuff. But I think me doing this will grow our business also, like we were talking off air and stuff like that. So that's kind of what I do. Like, I kind of keep everyone happy on the fishing side and the landing side, and try to help everyone out as best as I can in my thoughts and ideas on different things, trying to come up with different ideas and stuff like that. I can't, here's a funny story. Frank thought my halibut derby on the dolphin was the dumbest idea ever. It was never going to work or anything like that. We've done it for 5 years now, and we do it on Thursdays or on every Wednesday during the, like, kind of when the rockfish closure is done. He gets out full almost every day, and he's like, you know what, Carl? I was wrong about that halibut derby thing. That's a great idea. We need to come up with more ideas like that and type of stuff. I don't come up with a lot of good ideas, but the ones I do come up with, they're good.
Well, I think you're doing a phenomenal job. I want to explain to our audience, Carl, because to wrap their head around what Carl's talking about here, the tackle shop, the sport fishing landing, how many, honest to God, and this is not an exaggeration when he tells you this is going to blow your minds. Now, there's 3 landings: Fisherman's Landing, Point Loma Sport Fishing, and H&M Landing. Now, we're only talking Fisherman's Landing, Carl. We won't blow everybody's mind by how many boats are at all 3 landings combined, which are all touching each other. Yeah. It's almost, if you're not Carl or Dave Hansen and you come down there for the first time, you think it's one place. But how many boats run out of Fisherman's Landing?
We have 16 boats, and that's not including, like, the pickup and drop off boats for the little 4-pack and 6-pack charters we're doing now. But with 16 boats.
So, gang, these are those of you in Louisiana, those of you in Texas, those of you on the East Coast, Florida, because we have a huge audience. These are what you guys all call head boats.
Yes.
Okay. And a lot of the places in Louisiana and Texas and Florida and stuff, I go down there and I see you got 1, 2, maybe 3. Just Fisherman's Landing, 16 boats. That's 16 boats with their full crew, their captains, and then all the other support people for each boat. So each boat has about, if you broke it all down, the average boat has about 15 people employed by that boat, counting the support people, the families, the moms, the dads, the wives, and all those people need to talk to Carl every day.
It feels like that every day sometimes. My wife's like, can you just put the phone down for a while? Like, you're supposed to be off. But it's not. I can't. Sometimes, yes, but there's like, this guy needs help with this situation. And like, I'm the only guy, you know. The one thing early, like a couple weeks ago, Frank and I came up with the idea of owning a sonar at Fisherman's Landing. And now we have a sonar in our attic ready to go. And you know, the Pacific Queen needed a sonar, the Highliner needed a sonar the other day, and whatever. Like, they're not going to call Frank for it. They got to call me. Like, hey, you guys have a sonar? What do you have? Like, yeah, all right, I'll meet you down there. I'll get you a CH500 ready to rock and roll. And like Jason on the Highliner, this happened last week. Hey, we're turning around. Can I get that? Yeah, we'll get it delivered to Seaforth for you. You know, and like, no one else can do that. I mean, could I have one of the young kids go up there? But most of these kids don't know what a CH500 is, you know. But like, go down there, get them. And we got the guy back on his 3-day trip out there to rock and roll and stuff like that. And like, I'm like, that's what they pay me to do. So that's what I have to do. And I enjoy every minute of it.
Yeah, you do a great job, and the juggling act is absolutely incredible. I just wanted people to try to wrap their head around what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Fisherman's Landing is an incredible place. Now, you have boats that go out for many, many days or for a half a day.
Mm-hmm.
So we're running out of time. We got a few minutes, though. Just kind of go over the boats, the names of the boats real fast, and what the trips are, because there's so much moving parts here, gang. And we're only talking Fisherman's Landing. We're not talking about Point Loma Sport Fishing. We're not talking about H&M. This is Fisherman's Landing only.
Yeah, we got the Dolphin that does our half-day trip and overflow full-day trip charters and stuff. We got the Liberty that does our full day to the Coronado Islands. Those trips are 12 to 15 hours, or they might be fishing offshore. Then for our short-range boats, we have the Fortune, we got the Pegasus, the Pacific Dawn, the Tomahawk, the Islander, and the Pacific Queen. Now those guys pretty much do 1 to 3 day trips. Then we got all our long range boats, the Shogun, the Royal Polaris, the Searcher, the XL, the Royal Star. Those guys are going to be doing our 3 to 15 day trips, you know. So the nice thing about the long range boats, they kind of take care of themselves. You know, the girls that all help those boats out, they do an amazing job. Then our staff does all the stuff from our half day trips, which are 2 to 3 trips a day, to our overnight and 3-day trips, like I just mentioned. And that's where we come in, and we're their support group. We're answering their phones, we're getting them charters, we're getting them reservations, we're getting the information out to the people that want to know about Fisherman's Landing and SoCal sport fishing.
It's just an absolute incredible moving machine that's going. These boats don't set at the dock, gang. They don't make any money. When they're at the dock, they're doing a massive amount of work.
Yeah.
So there's not a time, oh, we're just going to tie the boat up for a couple weeks and go on vacation. That's not how it works. These boats are either out fishing, or they're doing major remodels or refits or giant repair jobs or replacing a sonar or whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
If they're tied to the dock, they're working. If they're not tied to the dock, they're working. So it's nonstop. Like Carl said, if you're in this industry, your wife has to be very, very kind, because
That's true.
Because it's a gnarly industry, gang, and it destroys a lot of relationships if you don't have the right person. Because you got to answer the phone. If you're in the fishing industry, you're married to the boat. If you're in the yachting industry, you're married to the boat. So it's super important.
I'm lucky because my wife's in the industry also, so she understands also. So we got a good relationship on that part. So it is a lot of moving parts, and a lot of people just don't understand the what happens behind the curtain on everything. You know, like you said, boat work, answering phones, charters, getting supplies to the boat, ordering supplies. You know, it takes a lot of people to keep this industry running, and these boats running full speed 9 months out of the year now, it seems like.
Absolutely. So remember that, wives and husbands that are watching, to the people in the industry, it's a giant absolute give back on both parts. the man and the wife, the whole thing. It's a weird industry, and it's hard
It
to
is.
tell. We don't know when we're going to be in. We don't know when we're leaving again. It's just the way it is.
Yep.
But Carl, I want to thank you so much for being with us today. We blew through the hour super fast. I have a really gigantic announcement. Now I've teamed up with River Cats Tackle and John and the crew, Burrito Catfish Lady, Miss V, and all the other Lance and Andrew and all the other people over there that are part of John's pro staff and his River Cats Tackle store. And we're going to do a live show tomorrow night with them. And they're going to host it. I'm going to be on the show. Andrew and I are going to do it together. Andrew, because I don't know anything about catfish fishing, but we're going to be live out on the water. It should start around 6 o'clock tomorrow night. It's going to be insane. And we're going to be doing this live thing. Because here's what happened, Carl. We did that live thing with Roy and Tim down on the hurricane bank, and we blew up the internet. Everybody wants to be live now. We did it with Mike Louse a couple of weeks ago at night out there doing the bluefin thing. All of a sudden now, the guys that understand the industry, the guys that understand social media, gang, I'm not going anywhere. You're not helping me. Okay, I'm going to be fine. I'm trying to help the industry. If you are on that sport boat, you're like, it's Dave Hansen. That's fine. You keep doing what you're doing. It's not going to affect me. But those that understand social media, they're coming. And the River Cat Tackle Company, John over there, he's super excited. His whole team's excited to be live in front of our 800,000 followers tomorrow night. It's going to be incredible. You don't want to miss it. It should start around 6. We will be probably online at 6, kind of breaking down what's going on. Lisa, Burrito Catfishing Lady, will be on. River Cat, John will be on. Andrew will be on. We'll all be over there explaining what's going on with the catfish thing. And Carl and I, we're not even close to done. Carl's going to be coming on my show more now that he sees it's a kinder, softer place. And I'm not Dave Hansen that the industry thinks I am. So it's okay today.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it.
Good. I'm excited too. And hopefully some of your captains will get him more involved and send Elliot some more bitchin' videos, gang, because it only helps the whole industry.
It does.
Because like I said in the beginning of the show, there's an entity out there that wants to stop fishing in the world. And we've got to be out in front of this or we're going to lose it, gang. I don't care where you're standing. You're running a sport boat today or you're owner of a sport boat. This should scare the crap out of you and you should get involved. And we got the biggest mouth in the industry. We got the biggest podcast in the industry. Let's do this. Let's roll together. Let's keep fishing open for everybody. And Carl, thank you so much for everything you do for all the captains down there in San Diego. The guys I know that are captains down there working out of your landing, they love you. So you're doing a great job, and I'm happy that you're part of this thing. And it's been a wonderful hour. It just flew by. You're a great guest. Thank you so much.
No, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
And Elliot Andrews, thank you. And congratulations to becoming the next United States citizen. That's pretty cool. Special.
Congrats, Andrew.
And I will see you all tomorrow night. And tomorrow morning, don't forget our live show at 9 o'clock in the morning, talking about what's going on in Southern California. The barred sand bass making a massive showing. The highly migratory sand bass, the barred sand bass, highly migratory. Remember that word. Highly migratory sand bass is here. It showed up in Southern California, and get ready. It's going to be an awesome summer. We're excited. Hopefully the next time we bring Carl on here, we're talking about albacore.
I'd be okay with that. It'd be interesting to see how people would react to that.
Oh, I think it's going to be awesome. Be fun. Tim Extra said he saw one jumping outside his window the other day. So here we go. All right, everybody. Thank you very much. Great show. Thanks for all the participants.